A Passion for Mushrooms by Chronological. Chapter 28. The Qualities of Courtship. Leaving the wheelbarrow at the door, Bilbo stumbled along the green granite path that divided his mushrooms neatly. He carried the heavy gold medallion Thorin had crafted for him in both hands, and he had his frying pan tucked into one arm. It was utterly foolish to cling to them so. Obviously they had not been courting gifts. They were just 3 mathoms and a thank-you present for a decent cook, which he had always known. He had always known that a great noble king could not fall in love with the Baggins. Somehow this foreknowledge failed to keep him from crying. Dropping down to sit among his mushrooms, Bilbo plucked a few within reach and munched on them to console his broken heart. Draping the gemstone-laden chain about his neck again was foolish. The enormous pendant had not been a courting gift. Indeed, even if Tauriel had not been joking, and a dwarf might give something other than a ring as such, Bilbo could not see any circumstance in which one might classify such massive piece of jewelry as romantic. It was not beautiful like his crown, nor wonderfully useful like his frying pan. It was, however, the gift of Thorin's hand. As such, Bilbo loved it almost as much as either of those presents. The chain was just long enough that Bilbo could wear it while leaving the heavy medallion flat on the floor to study. For the first time he noticed how fiercely heavy the little mail-clad hobbit made of gold looked, standing in front of Erebor with a triumphant sword and a hopeful acorn. The golden Bilbo had found a place where he belonged, as had the real hobbits. Much as he wanted Thorin's love, he did not need it to be happy in Erebor. Such gifts as the king had given him were sufficient, and far more than he deserved. Thorin gave him time, friendship, and breakfast every day. Beyond that, he had mushrooms aplenty, enough to sit snacking on flesh-black trilbies as though they were berry cabbits that wanted thinning. Bilbo laughed at himself and cleaned his face with a nice handkerchief. All would be well. Maybe the dwarves would not even tease him very much, since it was not their way to speak of love where it was unrequited. As if thinking of his friends was enough to summon them, Bilbo heard the quiet shift of the stone doors to his mind opening. Looking over his shoulder, revealed Thorin in the entryway. Bilbo leapt to his feet, or tried to. The heavy pendant did not lift from the ground, and the thick chain was still wrapped around Bilbo's neck. As he bounced up, it tethered him to the ground, and he lost his balance, banging his face badly on the floor. Immediately Thorin was there, taking the medallion in one hand and lifting it easily as he helped Bilbo to his feet with the other. "Thank you." When he was standing steadily, Bilbo took the medallion in both of his hands, but Thorin did not let go. "I should like to be alone just now," Bilbo added pointedly. Thorin's mouth opened and closed, but he did not turn to leave. "I'm fine," Bilbo said, rubbing his stinging jaw against his shoulder. "Really, I could take a joke as well as anyone. I hope you did not actually banish Tauriel for the trick." At that the king seemed to find his voice. "I have made amends to Tauriel for my words. It is my hope that you will allow me to make amends to you as well, for I have misunderstood you just as badly as I ever did her, and in doing so caused you great pain." "Oh no," Bilbo said. "I'm quite well." "You love me." All the air seemed to leave the little mine. Bilbo could neither breathe nor speak, and he felt desperately dizzy. Finally he managed to say, "I thought dwarves could not speak of love until the courting gift was accepted." "And you did not believe you had received one until Tauriel told you otherwise." "Do you mean to say she was telling the truth?" Bilbo could not allow himself to hope again. That would simply be stupid after everything else that had happened. Yet that buzzing honeybee was back in his chest. "As she knew it," the king said, "but that does not mean she was entirely correct." Nodding, Bilbo swallowed the hard knot that welled in his throat. It was just as well that he had not gotten his hopes up. Best to let that little bee die and forget all chance of honey. Of course a dwarf could not love a hobbit. "This was not a courting gift." Thorin fingered the mithril chainmail at Bilbo's sleeve gently. "This was the gift of madness, when I could see you only as a treasure to be gilded and guarded." His other hand was still on the heavy pendant, relieving Bilbo of its weight, and Thorin stroked the smooth surface with his thumb. "Yet I have no such excuse for this, which was the gift of pride. Giving you a burden of gold only showed you that my values were the same, whether I was mad or sane." "That's not—" Bilbo sighed. "You were very kind to—" "Your chin is bleeding." the dwarf growled.
"From when it pinned you to the ground just now."
"Oh!" Quickly Bilbo retrieved a handkerchief from his pocket and touched it to his stinging face. It did indeed come away bloody. The hobbit did not know what to say, so he allowed Thorin to lift the chain over his head, taking the pendant and setting it carefully on the ground. As he bent low, the king took a moment to brush his fingers over the frying pan that Bilbo had been sitting beside.
"Perhaps this was better done. This was the gift of my friendship, thinking only to bring you pleasure and expecting nothing in return. Yet no dwarf would ever be fool enough to think iron was a courting gift."
Bilbo's cheeks burned crimson, and he looked down at the white handkerchief in his hand. At least the bleeding seemed to have stopped. "No, I didn't think either. I mean, among hobbits, that sort of present, but of course I never really thought you would." He forced a little laugh and could not meet his friend's eyes.
"However, this, I will admit, was the gift of my hope."
Ignoring Bilbo's babbling, Thorin's right hand went slowly to trace the flowers of the hobbit's crown.
"As soon as I saw the gold pin you chose to adorn yourself with, and learned that flowers had a language among your people, I knew what I must do. The king under the mountain may reach far enough to learn such a language, especially one that hobbits do not keep secret. A courtship gift in that tongue was one I thought you would not refuse, not if there was any chance your heart might ever welcome me."
Bilbo's hands flew to the crown on his head, clutching at it as he stared up into Thorin's eyes. "Then you knew! You know that this is you know about mixing celandine and daisies? That was not an accident? I mean to say, the tiger lily. Thorin." If anything, Bilbo's blushed deepened to mention the blossom aloud.
"Oh, yes."
Thorin's eyes were soft, but more gentle still was the hand that found its way to Bilbo's cheek.
"I assure you, the bee was also quite intentional."
Squeaking was inevitable. So was finally kissing Thorin. Bilbo really could not be expected to do anything else at such a moment, and there was no one to stop him this time. Slowly he rose up on his toes to press their lips together gently. Thorin's mouth was just as soft and lovely as Bilbo had known it would be, and the tickle of a beard against his cheeks made the little hobbit nearly faint in delight. The king allowed the gesture and smiling broadly when Bilbo pulled away. Still, there were a few points that needed clarifying. "I thought it had to be rings. It seemed like everyone who spoke about courtship gifts showed me rings as examples. And
so you tried to offer me your magic ring, dearest Bilbo."
Thorin dropped another gentle kiss to the hobbit's forehead just below the shining black mushroom at the center of his crown, as though promising that all would be well.
"At that time offered in such a way, it could only be payment for the crown. Proud as I might be of my own work, even I could not deny that you were giving greater value in the trade than what I offered. It is an old method of refusal to overpay for a courtship gift, and thus say that you value the item, though you will not accept the gift. A suitor of honor who accepts such payment will never again trouble the one who refused him."
Woo! Bilbo wondered if it was possible to explode from such happiness, or perhaps faint from shock. "I thought perhaps it could not tempt you. I thought even the most precious thing I had was not enough, which hurt, for I hoped you might simply take it and let me speak. After all, you could always just tell me that you did not love me back once you had heard me out." Thorin's breath gave a small hitch. That was all the warning Bilbo had before he was pulled into another kiss. This kiss was quite different from the gentle one that he had pressed to the king's lips, for Thorin was suddenly fierce and devouring. Like a gift, his tongue slipped between Bilbo's lips, filling his mouth, making the hobbit moan as though this was very close to the culmination of all of the little fellow's wildest hopes, part of Bilbo still was occupied with wondering and worrying that he did not yet understand, that his dreams might once again be dashed upon the rocks of reality.
"I wanted it,"
Thorin admitted so low that Bilbo could scarcely hear him even in the warm silence of the mushroom mine.
"Looking at it in your hand, I thought perhaps I should take it. If I could not have you, I would have gold, all the gold in the world, fueling a great empire of the dwarven people, which would stretch across Middle-earth, as has never been seen in this age or any other. In that moment your little ring tempted me indeed. To speak plainly, I would ask that you keep it away from me henceforth, for in what I perceived as your rejection, I felt madness returning. This once, however, I proved strong enough. This once I was able to refuse the gold.
Oh! Remembering a time when Thorin had not been able to refuse the allure of gold that did no one any good, Bilbo did not know how to apologize for tempting the king so terribly. There was no arguing the fact that it had been deliberate and badly done.
Yet I'm glad now to have wanted the thing so fiercely, for though you did not understand then, by refusing it, I have proved my love.
It shouldn't have been a surprise. After all, Thorin had given him a number of courting gifts. Naturally, he wanted to be with Bilbo, and there was no reason for that unless he loved him. Thorin loved him. Bilbo was up on his toes again before he knew it, kissing the king splendidly. Right then, he said at last. That's more than enough dwarvish nonsense. It is long past time for some hobbit traditions.
Is it?
Thorin's eyes sparkled in the golden lamplight.
What did you have in mind?
You gave me a tiger lily, Thorin! Bilbo said it with reproach in his voice as he reached up to touch the orange blossom in his crown. A tiger lily!
So I did.
A wicked smirk twitched at the corner of Thorin's mouth.
I do not know if you noticed, but there is a bee at the center of your lily, perched right upon his stamen. Is there some custom that usually accompanies the giving of such a flower?
Growling wordlessly, Bilbo proceeded to show him precisely what the hobbit custom was right there among the mushrooms. After a time, Thorin conceded that the Shire ways in these matters had a great deal of merit. A little while after that, he admitted that they may perhaps even be superior. Later still, he vowed upon his honor to bow to Bilbo's wishes in all such dealings for the rest of their days and beyond. So in the end, it was all quite worth the trouble.